In today's session, we'll be learning about document type definition. So, what is a document type definition is, it will be creating rules to specify the legal content and place restrictions on the XML file. Say there is an XML file available, and this DTD is going to do what with the XML. So, the role of this DTD is to tell the rules in the way the XML file has to be presented with. So it will be telling this is the way the XML file must have its content to be getting displayed. See, if there is an XML file available and that do not follow the DTD that is written for it, then what the parser will do there is, the parser will tell that there is an error with respect to this XML file. And all these, the XML document, it may confirm that the rules that is set by the DTD has been satisfied or not. In that way, the XML document will be getting validated. So we will see this DTD with a elaborated example. Now take this first example. Before seeing I'll be telling the first example with respect to an empty element, how to create a DTD for the elements that is being present in your XML file. So if there is an empty element, if there is an element with the data available, and if there is an element with a single child, and if there is a data with multiple child, in such scenarios we will be seeing the example. Before that, we will be coming to know how to represent the DTDs. See, all elements declaration that will be beginning with this tag and it will be ending with this. Okay, that should be an open parenthesis and then an exclamatory, and the keyword element should be represented, and then you will be writing the element name and all those stuffs, and at the end you will be specifying this closing parenthesis. This is the way you will be declaring a DTD. And always you should remember that whenever you are trying to write an element, that element should be represented with the conscious of it is a case sensitive, and he should always declare all elements. The programmer, when you take in the concern of a programmer, all elements should be within the XML file. Whenever you are writing a DTD, whatever the elements that you are representing in a DTD, it should be present in the XML file. And the XML declared with this hash PC data content model cannot have a children. Say you are declaring an element, and for that element you are just making this as a data inside, then it means that that corresponding element do not have any children. It is having the data itself. And when you are describing the sequence of your DTD, say you are writing element 1, element next element, next like that, and the sequence, when you are talking about the sequence, the XML for document must contain exactly those elements in exactly that order. The order should not be missed. An XML file is having such order, then the DTD must be having that such order. That sequence should not be missed out. So you should be conscious on declaring a DTD. When you are writing a DTD, you should be conscious on making these points to be done. Now we'll see these with an example. Okay, the first example that we are trying to know is the empty element, which means you are going to create an empty element. There is nothing, no more element present inside. It is an empty DTD, right? So as I told, your DTD should always start with an open parenthesis, an exclamatory, and the keyword element, and then you can specify the element, and you can just specify that it is an empty element and close your activity. So this example will be telling you that there is an empty element, right? Similarly, if that same element is having an attribute for it to be defined with, say that element should follow this attribute. So you can just represent the element and then the attribute name and the attribute value here. The attribute name and the attribute value here, and then the corresponding closing of that corresponding element. So this will be telling you the example for usage of attributes in the XML file. So for the same element in an XML file, if you would like to specify an attribute, you would be specifying like this. And coming to the next example, if an element is having a data for it, say, so if you're writing a DTD for it, so according to this example, I'm just taking an element whose name is month. So in my XML file, there is an element which is called month. Okay, so for this corresponding element, I'm just specifying that DTD, where this corresponding month element is having data inside that. So if I want to represent the DTD for it, just always start with a open exclamatory element keyword and the corresponding element name, and then within brackets you'll be telling hash basic data and then close it. So this is the way you will be writing a DTD for it. Now coming to your XML file, see this. So there is an element with the name month and there is a data present inside which is April, and the element has been closed. So this is a valid statement in your XML file. So the parser checks, okay, whether it is having a data inside. Yes, it is having a data. So the parser will pass it. Yes, there is no error. Now coming to the next line, you just see there is a tag, that is an element which is being declared as month, and this is month and the month is being closed. Now it checks, okay, there is a data and the data is, this is a month. So this element is having a data and you're closing. So there is also no issue. The parser will check and it just specifies that there is no error. And coming over to the next, see, there is a tag which is named as month, okay, and there is a child for this corresponding element, and the child element is January. So according to the DTD, when you are specifying hash easy data as a DTD data, then this corresponding element that you are specifying here should not have any children. But here, before closing the month tag, what is happening? They are declaring one child and they are declaring another child, and the data for that child is present inside. So according to the described DTD, according to this description, it is an invalid statement. So when the parser finds this corresponding element in the XML file, it just specifies that it is an invalid. Reason why it is telling invalid is the element month should not have children. But according to this line, the element month is having two child. One is January and another one is March. So it's a wrong thing. And coming to the next example, which is elements with children. To specify that all elements must have a single child element, you need to include element name within the parenthesis. That is what the role over here, which means you are just declaring an element which is having only a single child. There should not be more than one child present for that element. So check out this DTD. They have written a DTD in such a way that there is an open parenthesis, there is an exclamatory, and you're writing a keyword which is element, and you're specifying the corresponding element name and the corresponding children name. So house, according to the example that you're going to see now, according to that example, house is the element and address is corresponding children, right? Okay, so see this example. There is an element declared which is a house. Yes, it is declared. It is not yet closed. So before closing the house, there is another tag represented, that is address. Okay, so address is the children of house. Now inside house element, we are declaring another element which is an address. Okay, and inside address you have the corresponding data like 1, 3, 4, 5, some data are present over here, and you are just closing the children. After closing the children, you are closing the house, right? So this is a valid XML data, whereas the element house is having only a single children. So in case if I am trying to declare another children over here, then it is a then this becomes an invalid thing. So when I try to declare one more child over here, what is happening? We are trying to violate the DTD. So in such case, this will become an invalid thing. Now coming to the multiple child declaration. See, I have an element and that element is in need of multiple children for it. So in such scenario, how do I declare my DTD for that element? See this example. And also remember, when you are trying to declare multiple children for a single element, when an element is having multiple children, the sequence of that each child, when you are representing the child name, say for example here, person, street, city, zip, the sequence should not be messed with. And always remember, every of the child should be separated with a comma. You should always follow the order. So see, there is an element DTD and the element name is address, and for this corresponding element you can have number of children. Number of children in the sense, here person could be one child, and street could be one child, and city could be one child, and zip could be one child. That could be represented inside the address element, right? This is the DTD that is being declared. Okay, now taking each of this element. So person is another element, right? So when you are trying to represent the DTD for the person element, they are writing like this. So which means what? Where the person is one of the element, where that corresponding person should have only a data inside that, whereas it should not have any subchild inside that. That is the rule that is written over here. So we have seen the earlier example stating that what is the actual scenario when you are writing PC data for. We have seen that example already, right? Similarly, they are writing for street, and they are writing for city, and they are writing for zip. So what these DTD is going to tell you is, there is one element which is called as address, and inside that address you have around 4 child: person, street, city, and zip. And whereas each of this person should have only data inside, street should have data inside, city should have data inside, and zip should have a data inside. This is the rule that is being written, right? And coming to the example. So if you want to write a valid XML, then just check out this example. So what this example is telling you is, there is a tag which is being written as an open tag, which is address, right? Inside address tag you have person, you have street, you have city, you have zip, right? So the person tag is having its corresponding data inside, and then you are closing it, and then you are closing the tag, and then similarly you are going for the next tag, which is a street tag, and it is having its own data represented inside, and you're closing the street tag. Similarly, you're going for city, it is being closed, and then zip tag, it is also being closed, and finally you are closing the parent, which is the address. So the rule here is being satisfied. What? Address is a parent tag, whereas the address is having 4 child inside that, and each of the child, the person, street, city, zip, is having only data inside. It is not having any subchild. Say, in case if I am trying to add one more here, right? Another tag, if I try to include over here, okay, if I try to include over here, then it comes a problem. Now tell me whether it is a valid XML or not. Yes, it is not a valid XML. The reason why is, I have told in my DTD that these are all the child present inside my address element, whereas according to this example, what is happening, I'm having one more child that is present inside my address element. So the parent should be having its own described children only. It should not go beyond its described children. So at this scenario, it becomes an invalid statement. So I do undo it, and then